You know, a really common mistake that people make when they try to monetize their creativity, especially in the digital space and specifically in music production, is that they treat their business exactly like a vending machine.
A vending machine, yeah. You're talking about the fundamental passivity of the whole setup.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of it for a second. You find a corner, you stock the machine with your products, you set a price on the little digital display, and then you just wait.
Right, you literally just stand there.
Yeah, you stand there waiting for someone to walk by, decide they like what they see behind the glass, drop their quarters into the slot, and push the button. Transaction complete. Clunk. It drops into the tray, you walk away with your quarters, and they walk away with the product.
And then, the machine just sits completely dormant. It does nothing until the next random passerby happens to have exact change and a craving for whatever it is you're stocking.
Right. And in the world of online music production, I mean, this is practically gospel. This is exactly how producers have been taught to treat selling beats online for the better part of a decade.
Oh, absolutely. The blueprint hasn't changed.
They render the track, they upload it to a platform, they set a price for a lease, and they wait for a transaction. But here is the massive, glaring vulnerability with that vending machine approach. The very second those direct sales slow down, your income doesn't just dip. It immediately drops to absolute zero.
Yeah, it's a completely binary financial state. You either processed a transaction today or you generated zero revenue today. There is no floor.
Not at all.
There is no baseline. You wake up on the first of the month, and regardless of how well you did last month, your accounting spreadsheet is just completely blank.
Which is an incredibly stressful way to operate a creative enterprise. I mean, nobody can thrive with that kind of anxiety. So for this deep dive into the BeatPass ecosystem, we are pulling apart the actual economic models of the platforms that dominate this industry.
And it's so necessary because people just don't look at the math.
They really don't. We're looking at the data, the structures, and the harsh realities of how these systems are engineered. And the question I want you, the listener, to keep at the back of your mind as we go through this is pretty simple. Are you building a resilient, modern business, or are you just standing by a glass box waiting for someone to drop quarters into your slot?
That's the perfect framing.
Because relying solely on that one-by-one transactional model might be the single riskiest thing a creative entrepreneur can do in the current economy.
The problem is that producers spend years, sometimes literally decades, perfecting their 808s, mastering their mixdowns, dialing in their drum bounce, But they spend almost zero analytical energy on the underlying economic models of the platforms they're uploading those tracks to.
Yeah, it's all art, no infrastructure.
Right. The default mindset is just looking for the quote-unquote best website with the most traffic. But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of how digital economies work. It's not about finding a magical traffic source.
So what is it about?
It's about understanding the architectural difference between pure per-beat marketplaces, direct-to-consumer storefronts, and hybrid subscription catalogs. Because the infrastructure you choose entirely dictates your long-term positioning. It dictates how much leverage you hold, and ultimately the basic physics of how your revenue flows.
Let's start with the architecture everyone knows then. Because to really understand how to build a modern ecosystem, we have to dissect the dominant paradigm, the undisputed titan of the vending machine model. And in this space, obviously, that means analyzing BeatStars.
Yeah, it is the Kleenex of the beat selling industry.
That's a great way to put it.
The brand recognition is so absolute that for many emerging producers, the concept of selling a beat and uploading to BeatStars are just synonymous. They don't even separate the two ideas.
It operates as a massive 24/7 global marketplace. You create your account, you upload your catalog, so your trap beats, your drill, your R&B, and you configure your licensing templates.
We all know the drill here.
Yeah, you've got your non-exclusive MP3 releases, your WAV file packages, your stem trackouts, and your exclusive rights. You can sell these directly on their central marketplace where all the traffic pools, or you can route buyers to a branded pro page, which essentially acts as your standalone storefront within their ecosystem.
And they monetize this via a tiered SaaS model, software as a service. The free tier handcuffs your upload limits and your basic tools, while the paid plans unlock the unlimited uploads, the detailed analytics, and the custom domain integration.
But the mechanics of the marketplace are where the economic reality gets really complicated. because there is a specific financial detail embedded in their transaction process that fundamentally alters a producer's pricing strategy.
The checkout fees, yes.
Right. When a buyer checks out on the BeatStars marketplace, many of those sales include an extra platform fee that is tacked onto the final price right at checkout.
And this is huge.
Wait, so let me get this straight. If I'm a producer and I decide my baseline MP3 lease is mathematically worth $30, the artist doesn't actually pay $30.
Well, the artist sees your $30 sticker price while browsing, but when they load up their cart and hit that checkout screen, the platform adds its own transactional fee on top of that.
Wow. Which introduces immediate friction at literally the most critical point in the sales funnel. I mean, we know from basic e-commerce psychology that surprise fees at checkout are the #1 driver of cart abandonment.
Exactly. It forces the producer into a highly defensive pricing strategy. If you know that your core demographic of independent artists will balk at paying, say, $34, and you know the psychological threshold for a conversion is exactly $30, you have to do the math backward.
So you have to lower your own price.
You have to lower your sticker price to account for the platform's added fee just to maintain your conversion rate. You are essentially eating the cost of their platform fee by compressing your own margins.
That is rough.
Yeah.
That's the reality of playing on someone else's turf, I guess. But I want to look at the broader philosophical issue with BeatStars because there is this pervasive gold rush mentality around it.
Oh, completely. The gold rush is the whole pitch.
Right. The entire reason producers tolerate those compressed margins and those platform fees is the sheer scale of the audience. Artists are going to search engines typing in Drake-type beats or dark ambient trap beat, and BeatStars just dominates that SEO.
They absolutely do.
But if the primary advantage of the platform is its massive scale, doesn't that exact same massive scale create an impossible saturation problem for the supplier?
It is the central paradox of the entire platform. You have to view BeatStars not as a store, but as a high-frequency trading floor.
A trading floor. Okay, unpack that.
Let's evaluate the mechanics of their discovery engine. They have top seller charts, they have curated playlists, algorithmic recommendations, and social features. If a producer's beat starts gaining traction, getting plays, getting added to carts, converting into sales, the algorithm detects that momentum and just pours gasoline on it.
So the rich get richer.
Exactly. It pushes that beat higher in the search results, which generates more traffic, which generates more sales. It's a compounding loop that aggressively rewards the top 1% of performers.
But what is the reality for the producer who isn't already in that compounding loop? You know, the person who just spent 3 days meticulously mixing a track, designing the artwork, and hitting upload.
That producer isn't dropping a product into a marketplace. They're dropping a grain of sand onto a beach.
Oof, a grain of sand.
If a recording artist searches for a specific type beat keyword, they aren't just going to find your fresh upload. They're going to be hit with thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of sonically identical uploads from a global network of producers. The algorithm doesn't care about the nuance of your mixdown. It cares about engagement metrics.
Which means simply being listed on the platform is not a business strategy at all. It's just occupying digital storage space.
Right. Survival in an environment with that much volume requires a strategy that most creatives are entirely unprepared for. You have to feed the algorithm with incredibly consistent output.
Like uploading every day.
Sometimes uploading daily just trigger recency biases in the search engine. You have to engage in aggressive external traffic generation, meaning you are spending your own money on Instagram ads and TikTok campaigns just to drive people to your BeatStars link to kickstart the algorithm.
So you are effectively acting as an unpaid marketing executive for the platform itself.
100%. Because if you just rely on organic search, you are going to get completely drowned out by the producers who actually have the capital to run ads and the infrastructure to upload 5 beats a day. It's an arms race.
And that is exactly why treating BeatStars as your entire business plan is fatal. The noise-to-signal ratio is just astronomical. It has to be viewed as just one specific channel, like a top-of-funnel SEO engine to catch raw search volume, not the entirety of your operation.
It's a net, it's not a house.
Exactly. So if we look at the physics of that, if the sheer unbridled size of BeatStars leads to an overwhelming ocean of saturated content where you have to literally scream just to be heard, the logical counter move for a producer is to find a platform that solves the saturation problem by intentionally shrinking the room.
Shrinking the room, I like that.
Yeah, if the club is too crowded, you go find a place with a bouncer checking IDs at the door. Let's talk about TrackTrain.
TrackTrain is a fascinating structural counter-argument to the BeatStars model. Where BeatStars operates on the philosophy of infinite aggregation, they want to be the Amazon of beats, offering everything to everyone. TrackTrain operates as a strictly curated, aesthetically gated marketplace.
The focus there is incredibly specific. They are targeting modern hip-hop, trap, and the nuanced subgenres of the underground aesthetic. And they use a similar tier system structurally, right?
Yeah, they do. There is a free plan that severely caps your upload slots, and then paid tiers that remove those limitations and integrate advanced operational tools.
Things like release scheduling, deeper data analytics, email capture for your marketing funnels, and automated split payments for collaborative tracks. But the critical economic differentiator here is their commission structure. On core MP3 beat sales, TrackTrain usually takes 0 platform commission, which is huge. Right. They monetize through premium features and formats, but that core MP3 transaction goes straight to the producer.
The zero commission structure is an excellent retention tool. But the actual strategic advantage of TrackTrain is the curation itself. The curation creates deliberate friction.
Now wait, friction is usually the enemy in e-commerce. You want a frictionless checkout, frictionless onboarding, frictionless discovery. Why is friction an advantage here?
Because in a creative marketplace, friction acts as a quality filter. By aligning so tightly with a specific dark underground aesthetic and by maintaining a barrier to entry, TrackTrain inherently blocks the flood of low-effort spam.
So no corporate ukulele tracks.
Exactly. If you are uploading corporate acoustic guitar loops for YouTube vloggers, you aren't going to survive on TrackTrain. The aesthetic constraint means the catalog remains cohesive.
And that cohesion elevates the perceived value of the product.
Precisely. Let's analyze the psychology of the buyer for a second. The artists who navigate away from the massive mainstream aggregators and specifically log into TrackTrain are arriving with high intent. They aren't window shopping for generic background music. They want a very specific, curated vibe.
Right. They know what they're looking for.
When they see a catalog that matches that exact aesthetic without having to wade through thousands of irrelevant tracks, the perceived premium of every beat on that platform rises. A meticulously mixed trap beat simply feels more valuable when it is surrounded by other high-tier genre-specific tracks rather than being sandwiched between a polka loop and a generic pop instrumental.
I understand the psychological advantage, but let's look at the math here. If you are a producer, you are willingly choosing to host your catalog on a platform with significantly less brand recognition and a objectively smaller total addressable market.
That's true.
You are trading away raw reach. How do you justify that trade-off?
You justify it through conversion rates. The calculation is about the quality of the traffic, not the volume. As a producer, you have to ask yourself a serious question. Would you rather have 10,000 random low-intent users glance at your beat, see a hidden platform fee, and bounce off the page? Or would you rather have 100 deeply invested genre-specific artists listen to your track all the way through, knowing that the platform aesthetic aligns with their own artistic vision?
That makes total sense. TrackTrain's economic model bets heavily on the latter. It is about high-intent targeting.
Yes.
It's basically the difference between setting up a billboard on a busy highway where everyone ignores it versus handing a flyer directly to someone walking into a niche club.
That's a great analogy.
But here is the structural reality we have to acknowledge. Whether we are talking about the massive, chaotic highway of BeatStars or the curated velvet rope club of TrackTrain, they both share one foundational characteristic. They're both centralized marketplaces.
Right. The platform is still the middleman.
They hold the keys to the audience. They dictate the search algorithms.
Yeah.
So what happens when a producer decides they want to completely disintermediate the relationship? What happens when they want to own the real estate entirely?
Then you are stepping out of the marketplace model and into the software as a service, direct-to-consumer model. And in our analysis, that brings us to Airbit.
Airbit.
Yeah, Airbit represents a massive philosophical pivot. While they do maintain a smaller marketplace component, their entire strategic focus, their real crown jewel, is storefront control. They're selling infrastructure, not discovery.
And the core of that infrastructure is what they call the infinity store, right? Instead of routing your hard-earned audience to a centralized website where your beats are sitting right next to your competitors' beats, you utilize an embeddable player.
It is a portable, fully functional point-of-sale system that lives wherever your audience already exists.
So you can drop the Infinity Store code directly into your own custom domain website. You can put it in your link tree. You can integrate it into your YouTube descriptions or your direct artist portals.
And from a technical standpoint, the platform specifically prioritizes highly optimized load times and pristine, buffer-free previewing. We really need to pause on that technical detail because it is not just a secondary feature.
Why is it so important?
It is a critical conversion mechanism. Think about the physical environment of a recording artist. They are in a studio. They are at the mic. They have a cadence in their head. They are in a flow state, and they are rapidly clicking through beats to find the right pocket.
Right, the feel and the vibe.
Exactly. If an embeddable player takes 3 seconds to buffer a high-quality stream, that flow state is broken. The vibe is dead. They will literally just close the tab. Airbit's engineering specifically addresses that latency to preserve the psychological momentum of the buyer.
That's brilliant. And the financial architecture of Airbit is built around empowering that direct transaction. Their main value proposition is zero platform commission on store sales.
Yep, zero.
Once the standard payment processing fees from Stripe or PayPal are cleared, which, is unavoidable credit card math, every remaining cent of that transaction flows directly into the producer's bank account.
But we have to analyze how Airbit sustains that zero commission model. If they aren't taking a percentage of the transaction, they have to monetize the infrastructure itself. They operate as a B2B software provider. They charge the producers recurring subscription fees to unlock larger catalog hosting, advanced backend analytics, API integrations, and heavier customization of that Infinity Store interface.
Right, you're trading a sales tax for a monthly rent.
Yeah.
But let's hit the harsh reality of the direct-to-consumer model here. Keeping 100% of the commission sounds incredibly seductive.
Oh, every producer wants to keep all their money.
Of course they do. But if you own the storefront and you are off the central marketplace, 0% commission on zero traffic is still $0.
It forces a brutal reckoning for the creative entrepreneur. It is the customer acquisition cost dilemma.
Exactly. If you build a beautiful, custom-branded website with an embedded Infinity Store, you are now entirely responsible for every single eyeball that hits that page. You are no longer just a music producer. You are a digital marketer, a media buyer, and a funnel optimizer.
Which is a completely different skill set. This is the strategic reality of Airbit. It is engineered for producers who already have the capability or the audience to drive their own traffic.
So if you're starting from scratch, it's tough.
Very tough. But if you are running highly targeted Instagram ads, if you have a robust email list of recording artists, if you have a massive YouTube channel driving inbound clicks, you want to send that traffic to an owned property.
Because why pay a toll?
Right. If you pay $20 to acquire a customer through Facebook ads, it is absolute financial malpractice to send that customer to a BeatStars page where they might click on a competitor's beat in the sidebar, or where the platform takes a cut of the sale. You send them to your Airbit store where you control the environment and keep the entire margin.
It's the classic analogy of building a Michelin star restaurant on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. The food might be incredible, the margins might be fantastic, but if you don't personally build the highway leading to the front door, the restaurant goes bankrupt. The empowerment of controlling your own domain is massive, but you are trading the algorithmic discovery of a marketplace for the heavy lifting of absolute control.
Which is exactly why you cannot look at Airbit as a discovery engine. It is purely transactional infrastructure.
Okay, so let's synthesize what we've mapped out so far. We have analyzed the three titans of the traditional transactional model. We have BeatStars, maximizing raw algorithmic reach and global scale. We have TrackTrain, leveraging curated friction and niche aesthetic targeting. And we have Airbit, providing the owned infrastructure for direct-to-consumer funnels. They all serve entirely different strategic purposes.
Very different.
But here is the critical pivot of this entire deep dive. Despite their vastly different architectures, all three of these platforms suffer from the exact same foundational weakness.
The vending machine problem.
The vending machine problem. They are all built from the ground up entirely on the premise of one-time transactions. The artist arrives, they buy a non-exclusive lease for $30, the producer gets paid that single time, and the financial relationship essentially resets to zero.
It's over.
Right. If the artist uses that beat, puts it on Spotify, and it generates 1 million streams, the producer's upfront lease payment remains exactly $30. So we need to explore what happens when the economic paradigm shifts. How does a producer's business change when you stop relying entirely on isolated single sales and you begin to monetize the actual ongoing usage of the catalog?
This brings us to the hybrid subscription model, and specifically the architecture of BeatPass. The data on BeatPass details a structural framework that is completely alien to the three traditional marketplaces we just dissected.
Alien away.
Well, it is part subscription platform, part B2B licensing engine, and part vetted producer collective.
Let's break down the mechanics of this because it's a dual-sided ecosystem and the incentives are completely realigned here. First, let's look at the demand side. The artist experience. Artists don't go to BeatPass to buy a single lease. They go to the platform.open.beatpass.ca and they subscribe. They pay a recurring fee, and in exchange, they are granted unlimited access to a highly curated catalog of human-made beats.
And that access is total. They can stream them endlessly, they can download the non-exclusive files, and they can actively use them in their content creation and their studio sessions.
It removes the transactional toll booth from the creative process.
Completely. But the supply side, the producer experience, is where the economic shift is most profound. Unlike BeatStars or Airbit, BeatPass is not an open-door, decentralized hosting platform. You cannot simply register an email address, create a profile, and immediately dump 200 unmixed tracks onto their servers.
So no grains of sand on the beach here.
Exactly. The platform actually operates a gated ecosystem. Producers are required to apply to the BeatPass producer program.
And looking at the documentation, it highlights that they are aggressively vetted. They are filtering for a high-fidelity quality, original composition, and technical mix-down standards.
They are intentionally keeping the catalog elite, which echoes the curation strategy we discussed with TrackTrain, but applied to a radically different financial mechanism. Because once a producer is accepted through that vetting process, the fee structure flips.
Flips how?
The accepted producers pay 0 upload fees, they pay 0 monthly storage costs, they aren't paying rent to be there.
Which naturally leads to the obvious mechanical question. If the producers aren't paying monthly SaaS fees like they do on Airbit, and they aren't paying transactional platform fees like they do on BeatStars, how exactly is the producer generating revenue from a flat subscription model?
Right, it sounds like a paradox.
If the artist is just paying a flat monthly rate for unlimited access, where's the producer's check coming from?
It comes from the revenue pool. This is the engine of the entire model. A significant portion of the collective subscription income generated by the artists is pooled together. The accepted producers are then paid out of that central pool based directly on usage metrics.
Usage metrics.
Specifically, they are compensated based on the measurable streams and downloads their individual beats accumulate within the platform.
Okay, I want to make sure the implications of this are crystal clear, because it fundamentally alters the definition of a music catalog. Under this model, instead of a producer dropping a beat and praying an artist eventually decides to swipe their credit card for a lease, the producer is generating fractional, continuous revenue simply because artists are actively listening to, testing, and writing to their instrumentals.
Precisely. If we zoom out, we can see exactly what BeatPass is doing here. They're looking at the macroeconomic shift that already happened in the consumer music industry over the last decade.
You mean the shift to streaming?
Yes. Consumers stopped paying 99 cents for a single iTunes download and shifted to paying $10 a month for unlimited access on Spotify or Apple Music. The industry transitioned from unit sales to access-based streaming. BeatPass has taken that exact same access-based, usage-driven economic model and applied it directly to the B2B creator economy.
Because the artist isn't a consumer listening for leisure. The artist is a business. They're using the platform as a utility to source raw materials for their own products.
And by turning that utility into a subscription, it creates the holy grail for the independent producer, recurring baseline revenue.
Wow. The vending machine is finally dismantled.
Exactly. Let's run a comparative scenario to really illustrate the math. Under the traditional marketplace model, a producer might offer a free tagged MP3 download of their beat to encourage artists to write to it. If 50 different artists download that tagged MP3, take it to their home studios, write lyrics to it, and record rough demos, the producer makes absolutely $0 from that entire process.
Right, because there was no checkout.
They only see money if one of those 50 artists eventually returns to buy the untagged lease. The other 49 sessions were entirely unmonetized friction.
But inside the BeatPass ecosystem, the math changes.
Radically. On BeatPass, if those same 50 artists are streaming your beat, looping it, downloading it to test in their digital audio workstations, every single one of those interactions is a usage metric.
That's wild.
You are capturing a measurable share of the subscription payout cycle repeatedly. It establishes a financial floor. It creates a baseline of income that does not wipe itself out and reset to zero at midnight on the first of every month.
That is a staggering psychological shift for a creator. Your catalog stops being static inventory gathering digital dust on a server. It transforms into a portfolio of working assets. It is actively generating yield, whether it's fractions of pennies that scale into dollars or consistent daily payouts, just by being interacted with in the natural course of an artist's creative process.
It aligns the monetization with the actual behavior of the user. Artists want to test beats before they commit. Producers want to be paid for their work. The usage model monetizes the testing phase.
Okay, I see the power of the recurring revenue baseline. Financial stability is the dream, and dividend-style payouts from a catalog make absolute sense. But let's address the elephant in the room here.
Let's do it.
A baseline is great for paying the electric bill, but producers are essentially venture capitalists of their own time. They still need the massive, high-value liquidity events. They need the big-ticket sales, the exclusive rights purchases where an artist drops $500, $1,000, or $5,000 to take full ownership of a track. How can a subscription platform possibly facilitate a high-value exclusive sale if the artist already has unlimited access to the beat?
This is why the structure of BeatPass is explicitly defined as a hybrid ecosystem. It is not exclusively a streaming utility. It has mechanisms engineered for those exact liquidity events. But first, we have to establish the legal baseline. BeatPass operates on a strictly non-exclusive basis for the producer.
Meaning the producer surrenders no rights to the platform whatsoever? They can have their instrumental generating daily usage revenue in the BeatPass subscription pool, while simultaneously hosting that exact same instrumental on their Airbit Infinity store or listing it on BeatStars.
Correct. It is additive, not restrictive. But within the BeatPass platform itself, they have engineered specific upgrade paths to capture those high-value sales. The primary mechanism is the exclusive upgrade.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does an upgrade actually happen in practice?
Let's trace the life cycle of a hit song within this ecosystem. An independent artist subscribes to BeatPass. They are browsing the curated catalog and they download your beat under the standard non-exclusive subscription terms. They take it into the studio, they write a phenomenal hook, they record the vocals, and they start testing the demo on social media.
Okay, standard process so far.
They post a snippet to TikTok, and suddenly the algorithm catches it. The snippet goes viral. It generates 1 million views in a weekend. Now, A&R reps from major labels are in their DMs, and distributors are offering advances.
And at that point, a standard non-exclusive lease, which might have streaming caps or performance limitations, is completely insufficient for the commercial reality of the song. The stakes have changed.
Exactly. To clear the song for a major release, to satisfy the label, or just to protect their own massive potential royalties, the artist must secure full ownership of the underlying instrumental. They can't risk another artist releasing a song on the exact same beat. So they return to the BeatPass platform, locate that specific beat they've been using, and execute an exclusive upgrade. They buy out the exclusive rights directly through the system.
And the producer receives that massive big-ticket payout. Plus, according to the structure, there is a secondary mechanism for direct revenue, right? Custom commissions.
Oh yeah, the custom commissions are brilliant.
The platform allows subscribers to submit specific creative briefs directly to the vetted producers. An artist can say, I love the bounce on this track, but I need something custom tailored at 140 BPM with live guitars for my album. The producer can accept the brief, deliver the custom instrumental, and crucially, BeatPass takes 0% commission from those custom project payments.
Which means the platform is essentially acting as a free lead generation tool for your highest tier services.
But I have to challenge the core premise here because it sounds almost too perfectly engineered. Let's look at the psychology of the buyer again.
Okay.
If an artist already possesses high quality, unlimited access to a beat through their $20 monthly subscription, why would they voluntarily pay a massive $1,000 premium to upgrade to an exclusive? Doesn't the very existence of the unlimited subscription fundamentally cannibalize the urgency of the big sale?
It is a completely logical assumption, and honestly, it is the exact fear that keeps producers clinging to the vending machine model. But if we deeply analyze the friction points of the recording process, we realize the subscription model actually achieves the exact opposite. It doesn't cannibalize the sale, it accelerates it.
Explain the psychology there.
Under the traditional model, friction is front-loaded. An artist hears a 30-second preview of a beat on a marketplace. They think it's good, but they don't know if their specific vocal cadence will sit right in the mix. To get the untagged, high-quality WAV file to actually test it in their DAW, they are forced to pull out their credit card and pay $50 right then and there.
And that front-loaded friction just stops the creative process cold.
Exactly. The artist feels the financial risk, they hesitate, and instead of buying the loose, they just keep scrolling to find a free beat on YouTube. The transaction never happens, and the song is never written. But with the BeatPass subscription, that front-loaded friction is entirely eradicated.
Because they already have access.
Right. The artist downloads the high-quality file instantly, with zero additional transaction. They live with the beat, they write to it, they record a full demo, they play it in their car, they prove to themselves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the song is undeniable.
Ah, I see. And once the song is fully realized, it transforms from an idea into a tangible asset. It becomes real to them.
Precisely. Once the vocal is tracked and the song is validated, the artist's mindset shifts from "I am testing a beat" to "I need to protect my hit." They need to secure those exclusive rights before they launch a commercial rollout. The unlimited subscription didn't cannibalize the sale. By removing the financial friction of the testing phase, the subscription facilitated the creation of the very song that necessitated the massive exclusive sale.
That is a brilliant architectural shift. You're essentially removing the toll booth at the entrance to the creative sandbox, letting them build the castle for free, but placing the toll booth at the exit when they want to take the castle to market.
And by restructuring the economics this way, this hybrid ecosystem effectively turns a single music catalog into 3 parallel simultaneous income streams.
Let me guess. Usage, exclusive, and custom.
Exactly. You are capturing the recurring fractional usage revenue from the subscription pool, you are securing the high-value exclusive upgrades from artists who validate their hits, and you are generating commission-free custom work from artists who use the platform as a discovery engine for your specific sound.
So as we pull back and synthesize this entire deep dive, we have analyzed the massive algorithmic scale of BeatStars. We have explored the gated niche curation of TrackTrain. We have looked at the owned direct-to-consumer infrastructure of Airbit. And we have unpacked the usage-driven B2B hybrid model of BeatPass.
If a producer is listening to this, trying to navigate these vastly different economic realities, what is the grand unifying lesson here?
The inescapable conclusion from all this data is that the era of platform monogamy is over.
It's totally over.
The idea that a producer must find the one true website, upload their catalog, and cross their fingers is a relic of the past. Serious professional producers do not look for a single platform. They architect a multi-platform tech stack. They assign a specific strategic job to each platform based on its inherent economic model.
So let's map out what that modern tech stack actually looks like in practice. If I'm treating my catalog like a business, how do I deploy these tools? You deploy them sequentially to capture different stages of the buyer's journey. First, you utilize BeatStars to cast the absolute widest net possible. You treat it purely as a top-of-funnel SEO engine.
So you're just fishing for searches.
Right. You format your titles and tags to capture the raw, unrefined search volume of the global market. You accept the platform fees and the algorithmic chaos because you need the sheer impressions.
It's the billboard on the highway.
Exactly. Second, you leverage the infrastructure of Airbit to build your own direct-to-consumer storefront. This is your conversion engine. When you spend your own money on Instagram ads, or when you build an email list of loyal artists, you route all of that highly qualified traffic directly to your Airbit Infinity store.
You do not send them back to the marketplace.
Never. You convert them in your own frictionless environment and keep the entire margin.
You control the real estate. And what about the curation aspect?
If your catalog fits a highly specific, underground aesthetic, you simultaneously deploy TrackTrain. You use it to capture the high-intent, niche buyers who actively avoid the mainstream marketplaces and are willing to convert at higher rates for a curated vibe.
And then the final layer.
The final layer is BeatPass. Because your catalog is non-exclusive, you take those exact same assets and inject them into the BeatPass subscription ecosystem. Now, while you are waiting for the sporadic one-off lease sales to occur on your BeatStars, Airbit, or TrackTrain accounts, your catalog is simultaneously generating a baseline of recurring revenue from the daily usage of subscribed artists.
Setting up a floor.
You are establishing a financial floor while simultaneously setting the trap to catch those high-value exclusive upgrades and custom commission leads.
You are building a diversified financial portfolio. You have the high-risk, high-reward algorithmic plays, you have the direct-to-consumer margin plays, and you have the steady dividend-style usage plays. You are finally evolving from a vendor standing next to a machine to a rights holder managing a dynamic asset class.
It is the only mathematical way to survive the saturation of the modern digital economy. The platforms have evolved, the tools have evolved, the underlying economics have completely shifted from transactional to access-based.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That sad, solitary vending machine sitting in the corner, waiting for someone to happen by with exact change. I want to leave you with a final, paradigm-shifting reality to confront as you look at your own hard drives today. If the true economic value of your music is rapidly shifting away from the isolated point of a single transaction and moving toward the ongoing, measurable usage of the track in the creative process, how much potential revenue, how much baseline income is currently sitting completely dead in your folders, simply because it is locked behind a one-time paywall? Stop treating your catalog like static inventory waiting to be sold once. Start treating it like a dynamic portfolio of assets engineered to be put to work.
Because the entire industry has already recognized that usage is the new currency. The only remaining question is whether your strategy is positioned to collect it.